Now then, just seeing this video of Metatron seeming to have a dig at the EU, so let's see what he's got to say, because, I'm pretty critical of the EU too, so.
What it led to is this, which now, if you look at where we are at, you will see that, oh gosh, this is actually materializing. They did try, this is from...
Yeah, this shit's cringe. This is not what we should be perpetuating. And I fully believe this is a manifestation of the enemy. I mean, if you're not Christian, you might not like me saying these sort of things, but it's tough. I mean, I'm Christian now. Fully admit that I was wrong about many things, and that the fact that there is an evil force of nature that we might call Satan, it does try and manifest hatred in the world in the forms of stuff like this.
2024, so it's only a couple of years old. In fact, a year and a half, maybe. Whiteness and Europeanness are danger to EU, ECFR report. And it's not the only one. Look at this title. EU moving toward more xenophobic view of Europeanness, report warns. So they've been busting our BALLS for so long about how xenophobia is awful, only to turn around and use it onto the native populations and the native citizens of Europe. Absolute scumbags.
This is the annoying thing, I think, from my perspective as well, is that, I was raised not be racist, and I was never really racist to anybody, at least from into adulthood anyway. Who knows, we're all children and probably did and said things that were probably not correct while we were children, but as being an adult, certainly never been racist or anything. And then just to get it used on me once we came into the digital age, and people would use my race against me to say, hateful things. And well, it's not, those words never really manifested into fists and punched me in the face. It did sour me on the fact that I was not being racist, and whether we like it or not, it did push me into a more nationalist point of view, where I would then defend my ethnicity and my, indeed, nationality, which is obviously British.
One at a time, come on. Overall, the ECFR warned that there was a public drift towards understanding Europeanness in ethnic terms rather than in a civic way, it viewed as more constructive. Do keep in mind this. I don't care this is a year old, because what did they do? What did they do in these years? And were you aware of this, that this was being spoken in Parliament at the European level?
I mean, I wasn't too much, but then again, I'm not really paying too much attention to what the EU says, because we're not part of the EU anymore. I do sometimes when they're directly, I wonder if they do sometimes wonder if we're, unless they are directly commenting about the UK, etc., I don't really care too much about what the EU is doing internally anymore, I would say.
Weren't aware of this, then it's important to be aware of it, because it kind of explains the migratory waves and all of the anti-European sentiment that has been pushed. The European Council on Foreign Relationships, not a clown on TikTok. And we paid for it. So, the European Council of Foreign Relationships has published a report warning of the danger that whiteness and Europeanness pose to the European Union. So next time that you hear someone complaining about European natives who talk about the dangers of, for example, radical Islam...
Yes, indeed. And I suppose I'll just mention it on this video. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of Islam. I mean, I have nothing against Muslims as such on an individual basis. I'm happy to talk with Muslims, but the ideology and religion of Islam I am completely against, especially now that I have fully come to Team Christ, is that I understand it to be a deviation away from the Messiah and sends individuals to the hot place rather than to the embrace of God after they expire. So I would rather see less Muslims go, down that direction. I would rather them come to the Holy Ghost, and we'll all celebrate at the end of time being on the correct side.
They tell you that's Islamophobia, you're not supposed to say it. Remind them that they are the ones that talked about the dangers of the Europeans in Europe. Remember that next time you hear that. Titled, Welcome to Barbieland, European Sentiment... What? European Sentiment in the Years of Wars and Election, the September 25 report discussed how many people have become visibly disillusioned with the European project in a way that has surprised those supportive of the bloc. Rather than citing economic or energy issues faced by the EU, the report blamed, among other things, how white the MEPs elected by EU citizens following the 2024.
I would have thought he would have known, but that's MEP anyway, members of European Parliament. Sorry, MEP. I'm surprised that Metatron didn't know that, and that's not a shot at him or anything. I consider Metatron probably to be more intelligent than I am, so I'm just found that was surprising, that's all.
For European Parliament elections in June. In most countries, non-white and Muslim people were underrepresented in candidate lists. Of course, because they're minorities, you clowns.
Yeah, that's a very silly point. I mean, I'm glad that Metatron's going to point it out.
Obviously. Man, I'm so glad I left Europe. I am so glad I left Europe. Like, I'm sorry for all my European brothers and sisters, but guys, you gotta vote this nonsense out.
Yeah, we have a very short window of time now to rectify things, and while I hope that it doesn't turn to the more violent course of action, should that occur, I will not be surprised. I was predicting that before I came to Christ. I do believe that as a Christian, I'm not meant to make predictions about the future unless I'm a prophet, and I'm not a prophet, so I no longer try to make predictions about the future, but I am prepared for it to go that direction, certainly.
Oh, because, I mean, otherwise, move to America. I don't know what to tell you. You can't live in a place that hates you. Or you elect people that hate you. What are they doing? No more than 20 non-white MEPs were elected this year, less than 3% of the total, and well below the 10% share that racial and ethnic minorities are estimated to account for in the EU population, which doesn't matter because, first and foremost, look how manipulative.
Yeah, it's bizarre, isn't it? And we're seeing this happen in the UK now. For instance, the Reform Party filling their candidate seats with ethnic minorities from other populations, which is exactly what the great British people do not want. And same thing here being pushed in the EU, trying to get these outsiders into positions of power where they can essentially act in their own interests and not in the interests of native populations, because unfortunately that is something that does occur. These populations will exercise their in-group preference to benefit their own immediate friends and family first, rather than the natives.
It's unbelievable that I have to say this because it is all obvious. It is so obvious. It doesn't matter because when you look at the percentages, first and foremost, that includes non-naturalized individuals. They don't matter. They can't vote. When it comes to these political and policy changing positions, it doesn't matter. They can't vote. They're not naturalized. They don't have citizenship. Also, it includes the illegals. Once again, what do they matter? So once the percentage goes down severely, then there is the fact that they're not originally from there. I'm not saying that they should be completely excluded if they have been naturalized, for instance. And I don't know, they started a family, they're respectful of the country, they're respectful of the culture, because, let me tell you this.
Yeah, that's got to be definitely a component of it. It's been abused in the EU, it's been abused in the UK. Yeah, and we don't. It's not as if we would get to abuse this outside of Europe. If we went to other countries and decided we were going to behave as we wished and not in accordance with the natives and the locals, we would be ostracized, probably attacked, kicked out of the country, targeted for crime, all sorts of things. But us in Europe, we're too soft, and we allow this nonsense to keep flying towards the inevitable trigger point, which I don't think many people are fully comprehending just how horrific it will be once things do go that direction. And as I've said in another video as well, if like I said, tried not to make predictions, but if it really was going to spring up anywhere in Europe, I do believe it would be Ireland first. I believe it would spread from Ireland into Britain and then onto the continent if something was going to occur like this. But I'm not a prophet, that's not a prediction, that's just me, what I kind of feel internally. So don't take that as like a prediction, and I'm not saying that is what is going to happen, just what I personally kind of feel in my gut.
Much. If he's one of those that hates everything about us, then I wouldn't even give him citizenship because of that, but that's just me. Such whiteness, it continued, served to leave Muslims and other individuals with migrant backgrounds feeling alienated. I personally don't feel alienated when people talk about blackness or people talk about brownness or people talk about, like, if people say, hey, this is a cultural aspect of black identity, do you think I feel left out? No. You know why? Because the color of my hair doesn't matter when it comes to that kind of categorization. Therefore, it's not about me. Not everything has to be about the self.
Yeah, and this is where we've gone in wrong in societies. Everybody thinks that everything has to revolve around them. This is why you can't. This is why you can't have a discussion with somebody else within earshot of somebody else, a third party, about them it causing an issue that they felt upset. Like, you shouldn't even, like, mind your own fucking business. Like, granted, you might hear the conversation, but you don't need to step in. You don't need to make it about you. Why are you making our conversation about you? And that's maybe just one example, but it does occur.
You don't have to be everywhere. It's okay for spaces to be, or talks, or subjects to not include literally everyone everywhere all the time. I've said this about history a lot. When the BBC makes the cartoon, they have a section about the freaking Britannics that has every other shop there is a black Britannic. Well, that's misrepresentation. It's not.
Yeah, it is. And I will say, like, if you're the kind of person that thinks that we had that many black people within the UK prior to the Windrush, really, then you're sadly deluded. There will have been some in the United Kingdom, but not very many at all. It would have not been as common as what the media is trying to depict. It would have been extremely rare. We never had slaves here in the United Kingdom, not from the point onwards of, like, William the Conqueror. I believe it was 1130, we had no more slaves. The last slave had ever died, or come to the end of that sort of system that had been essentially put to an end by William the Conqueror. Yeah, so it's just not. This is why they're trying to ram it in by saying we had some that had come in over these. Anecdotally, they've dug one up down south that was like from the Roman period, I think, was it? I don't know. Yeah, just silliness.
Not true. Didn't happen. It wasn't the case. Not true. Massive announcement. Check this out. You're gonna love.
Oh wait. Oh, sorry, Metatron. I'm gonna skip through this just to.
Europeans to vote for more right-leaning parties has exacerbated such feelings of alienation. No. No. Good. So what happened?
You don't have to feel involved. Like, you cannot be involved at the expense of the native population. I'm sorry. If we've got to make a choice, whether you're involved or not, then we make the harsh choice that no, you're not involved. And you can stop with this sob story stuff. Because it's wrecking the whole system in the United Kingdom and Europe. And it's not going to be fun on the receiving end once the natives decide that enough is enough. And that's not a call for it. I don't want it to happen. But what I'm just saying is I'm well prepared for it to happen. I'm going to leave this video here. The link for this will be in the description if you want to see the rest of what Metatron had to say. And I'll see you in the next video.